Tarke here, and in preparing the topics for Baeclast tomorrow, and having spoken to Karv about flare runs, I figured I should probably show people what flare runs are, so that you know what we're talking about in Baeclast, whereas some of you may not be aware. Basically, what you can do is, you want to find an area, either like this here, or this here, which runs through either a Val, or a Lich area, and you just go in fully stocked with flares, and you don't actually pay the cost of the run. You just find the bit you want to do, and then you just run ahead through the darkness, throwing flares to kill the monsters. Now, how with fossil farming, if you don't blow up any walls, the loot respawns. It's the exact same system here. So what you do is, you just find the area you want, go for the highest eye level you can, so basically 270-ish, and you run ahead, drop your flare, kill the mobs. So why do you want to do this? You get tier 15, 16-ish XP based on like what sort of level you're doing this at. That was a crash, feels good one. You get access to the Obscured card, which is the div card which gives you a Breachstone, which is obviously very powerful for SSF. This stuff can drop maps. You get to farm the fossils, you get to farm the wealth boxes, you get to farm basically all of the really good stuff. It's the cheapest way of delving, because the cost of flares is only 1 Azerite each. And a lot of the time when you run this, you will encounter small Azerite nodes along the way. So if you're lucky, or you go into this with like 10,000 Azerite saved up, and a lot of people have loads of Azerite saved up. So someone like Grim or someone like MP's got hundreds of thousands of Azerite. You just fucking go infinitely. So for the people who are like, I don't get to do enough of the high tier delves, well, this is how you can do the high tier delves. And it's kind of broken. Now, the thing which is cool about it is it's nearly impossible to nerf. And this is like a very clever use of game mechanics. So I kind of like it. And this is also why I said at the very start of the league, delve is problematic because it changes so many things about how PoE functions. Like if you had a way to infinitely sustain tier 16 monsters with 0 costs attached, like this doesn't require any currency investment, this requires 0 grinding. Like there's no cost, right? And this is why like you've got to be careful with delve. So the reason why you can't really nerf this is the equivalent of like doing a node and then failing it. So the only real ways they could change this would be if they had it so that you physically couldn't move from the cart start point without paying a cost. Like if you hadn't paid a cost, there was like an invisible barrier or a wall. That would completely kill fossil farming. So they could maybe do that to nerf both this and fossil farming, but they kind of don't want to do that because a big part of how delve works is, do you risk going to the side areas while the cart is running, or do you be safe and go back afterwards after you've cleared it all, right? So they can't really nerf it that way. They could buff the cost of flares, which even then, Azerite, you eventually reach a point where you just have more Azerite left over than anything else. So that's kind of a no-brainer. And again, if you destroy the walls, the reason why you purposely don't destroy the walls, if you destroy the walls, then it like locks that instance and the chests stop respawning. Now, a lot of this stuff is kind of weird. It's very akin to like chest runs in Diablo. And that's why it's really important that people kind of know how this functions. So when we talk about this on Baeclast tomorrow, you have an idea of like how this stuff kind of works. But it's really interesting because it's like an incredibly powerful mechanic. But if this goes core, is this really something you want to always be in the game? Like, I want delve to go core for the record, but do you want people to be able to cheese stuff like this infinitely? I'd argue if people could cheese stuff like this infinitely, that'd be kind of broken. Same with fossil farming. Like, from an SSF point of view, I think the delve, darkness, fossil farmers don't pose, like, a problem to the long-term health of the game. I think that's fine. but from a trade point of view, especially with how broken fossils are. I was talking to Octavian about Baeclast stuff, and he was actually saying he thinks people are actually sleeping on fossils, which is crazy because everyone's like, fossils are broken. So when everyone's like, fossils are broken, and he's like, no, people don't realize like just how broken these are. I don't know if he's like worked out some weird crafting method or something. Yeah, it's really interesting. So very TLDR, just to quickly recap. Upgrade your flares, go for that flare radius and capacity, and just do some runs, and make sure you're doing this in either a Val or a Lich area so you have access to the obscured cards, and have some fun. It's pretty powerful, and I would also say, just very briefly, I think... Thank you. I think this is a far healthier cheese than the Darkness fossil farming. I feel like if they killed one and kept the other in, I'd rather have this one, because at least with this one you're, like, fighting monsters. But both of them probably need changing if this goes completely core as is. But anyway, I'm Tarke, and again, this is something that Karv was telling me about, so full credit goes to Karv. But I just wanted people to know what we're talking about for Baeclast tomorrow. Bye-bye.